Hey everybody, Tony D. With kind of a hot take, I guess you'd say. I I was talking on X, Twitter, and there's been a lot of uh, tweets about women posting too much on the internet at various levels. I mean, at the most extreme, I think you have like OnlyFans, right? Sort of like the ultimate expression of just putting too much out there. But you also have, and this is true of some men, but I think it's more for women. I think more so women will post things. And I was talking to someone about, I think he was complaining that some girl he was interested in was just doing too much on the internet, and I thought, and I know women like that, and I thought, why is that? Why is that? Like why do they tend to get sucked into things more than men? And I think they do. I think it tends to be more of a woman problem. I think a guy could conceivably just throw away his phone and live his life. you know, it would be seen. It would be rough, but it would be almost like a challenge. Whereas women, I just a lot of them, and that's not every single woman. I'm not saying they're a monolith or anything like that. It just, I think the natural tendency is this: women evolved in a different way from men, in that they evolved this sort of nurturing instinct, and it kind of colors everything they do in both good ways and bad. So the nurturing instinct is basically to watch over the kids, watch over the young, and that goes back hundreds of thousands of years. So, but when it comes to social media, what happens? Well, I think it has to do with the way women are just kind of wired socially, right? I think it's like they're wired socially to kind of want everybody to get along. Not that most people don't want that to a certain extent, but I think women are particularly wired to want that. It's upsetting to them when people don't get along. It's upsetting when people are rude and unkind and cruel, and they want everybody to be happy and get along. There's sort of a need for that. No, again, there are some men who do that, but I think it's more so with women. So because of that, and that's sort of across their social strata, I think they look they gauge reactions, right? And we all do to some extent, but for them it's like a social thing. They're constantly, I mean, we're all constantly gauging reactions of people, but for women on a social level, they're gauging the reactions if everyone's getting all along, right? And that worked in an in-person setting with the group of people you're friends with. Mostly that serves you. If you're in a group of friends and you're constantly sort of gauging them and seeing, everybody's getting along, everybody's good, everybody agrees, it's kind of a check on to keep people from going, off kilter or whatever, get mad at each other. So that can be mostly a good thing. When it's a bad thing, though, when you get, say, someone in the group who is contrarian, determinedly contrarian, or you get someone in the group who's just bad, let's say, has a really bad attitude or a real bad disposition, whether that's like the woman's boyfriend brought into the group or just somebody else, it causes conflict within the group, and women, I think, don't like that and strive to get everybody up to get along again. So then you introduce the internet. But the internet has become an extension of that. It's like an extension of your circle of friends. And because of that, the internet allows in way more crazy people, way more contrarian people, and way more people who are a danger to the group dynamic. Now, it can be that a group dynamic is bad for whatever reason and gets old and stale and outdated or whatever, but for the most part, I think, you know, group dynamics are not necessarily perfect, but for those particular people, it's probably just fine in their various areas. But when you add the internet, you kind of have a weird mixing of people across a spectrum that wouldn't normally interact. And because the internet tends to reward people who are on the extremes, we have these mind viruses that have been carried along and introduced to these small populations of friends that wouldn't normally be introduced. The woke mind virus being the most obvious example. And because of that, I don't think a lot of these same women have any kind of resistance to those woke mind viruses or new ways of thinking. They don't have any discernment to it because they're gauging it the same way, or mostly the same way, as they would someone in the circle, and their gut reaction is, oh no, everybody has to get along. I have to consider these new ideas, and I have to somehow incorporate them so everybody feels safe and wanted. And for the woke mind virus, that's extremely bad, because it's not meant to be a good thing. It's meant to prey on that nurturing instinct. And so I just got to thinking about that and just thought, it's not that women are different or that the internet is bad. It's just that the combination of the two hasn't found some sort of equilibrium. And it's kind of like we've opened a valve and flooded an area of our social consciousness that couldn't handle all these opinions, couldn't process them all. And instead of processing them all, a lot of these women are trying to, instead of saying, well, maybe this isn't a good idea at all, they're just trying to say, well, I got to get everybody to get along. So if you're doing that, maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you should take more time to process the ideas coming at you and gatekeep the people you're interacting with on the internet. Because, I've noticed that even I sometimes get too tense. Like, with the recent civil war in comics, which I talked about for a little while, I got a little tensed about it. I got a little bit ways down the rabbit hole, and then eventually I sort of went, you know what, I shouldn't do this, because it feels like I'm going to get sucked down this rabbit hole and start warring with people, and I don't want that. I don't want the war that the civil war in comics is bringing or has brought. Even though it will bring me clicks and possibly many valuable super chats on my live stream, I don't want that negativity. I think it's bad. So I pulled away from that, and I just stopped talking about it, and I unplugged from some of the accounts that are talking about that, and now I feel that most of the accounts I'm seeing, even though I'm still kind of following it, are more positive, and I'm not feeling that stress, not feeling that temptation to go down that rabbit hole. In fact, I wrote a very short piece that I'm probably going to send to Fandom Pulse. I don't know if they'll run it, but just how, I felt like, I was getting sucked into something, but I'm older, so I had a little more discernment. I had a little more time to think about it, because when you're older, you tend to do that. You tend to just, you've made so many mistakes, you process things differently, and your processing becomes more sophisticated and it becomes longer, and a lot of times it's just time. It's just you need more time, so you constantly, and you're doing so many things, you just kind of like put things off, and then it's a week later and you just see it in a different light. Whereas people who are younger just don't. They just barge right ahead and say something, and now they're emotionally invested, and now they feel they can't pull out. And a lot of it, I think, drives the speed at which people get sucked into these, whether it's the woke mind virus or just trends that, and arguments online that just, waste their time, waste everybody's time, really. So I guess I've come to the conclusion that the internet is kind of a dangerous thing, that people should be more wary of using, that they should unplug from it more, try to remain more positive, and to, I don't know, get some kind of context when you're arguing an issue. So, there you go. That was relatively coherent. I've been thinking about that a while. So that's my hot take. I couldn't really find a good movie to talk about today. Anyhow, that's it from me, Tony D, and Little Joan. Check us out on Odysee, Bitchute, and Rumble for our more based takes. If you can find a more based take, I say, take it. I will be at iHeart Horror Convention on Saturday in Sayreville, New Jersey. So check out that. Then on Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, I'll be at Valari's in Sicklerville, New Jersey from 11 to 2 for the market. That's going to be outside. I think the weather will be nice. And Monday, where the heck am I Monday? I think I'm in the Newfield Library. Yes, I am. The Newfield Public Library on Monday. So it's going to be a 3-day weekend of work for me. Hope to see you around. We'll see you tomorrow.